The story of the red rubber ball. Imagine a young boy, age 3, and his father leaves. And that age 6 is the last time he sees his mother. He's pretty devastated. He feels rejected, he feels unworthy, and yet he has a grandmother and a grandfather who raises him and his younger brother. And this is the beginning of the life of Kevin Carroll, who you saw in the beginning of the video, the bright smile, the brilliant personality. And he felt rejected in the beginning of his life, as anyone might, until he found the power of the playground and the freedom of the playground. And on that playground, even though he was a small boy, he was fast. And because he was fast, he got to play basketball and soccer, and the playground became his sanctuary, a safe place for him to be, a magical place where he could be special, where he could be productive. It was the playground where he found that small size really didn't matter because he was fast enough to be chosen for teams. So he played soccer and he played football in the fall, and in the winter he played baseball, or in the spring he played baseball. It wouldn't, that would be a spring sport, yes. And all his early years, that red rubber ball was there. And through that red rubber ball, he kicked it, he tossed it, he threw it, and he chased it. And he was completely intrigued with how he felt when he got to play and he got to be part of a team. He felt important. He felt needed. He felt wanted. And he even felt loved. You can imagine, for a young person, all of those things are so important for our self-esteem. So he took very good care physically, and he worked at getting faster and stronger, and when his playtime was over, he didn't want it to end, as you can well imagine. He dreamed of being in professional sports, so much so that his teachers would catch him daydreaming, and they would pin a note on his shirt to when sending him home to his grandmother. Please encourage Kevin to think about something other than sports. Well, grandmas, being what grandmas are, replied, if sports is what Kevin thinks about, so be it. So Kevin had his grandmother's blessing to continue with his sports activities, and he was unbridled. He continued that freedom that he found, and he was passionate about what he was doing. And we've all experienced that passion at some point in his life. And that red rubber ball gave him a dream to hold on to. Sports became his guiding light. It was all he thought about, all he aspired to. And that guided all of his life choices. So you can imagine, here he was, focused on sports, and everything that he did was guided by that idea. As he grew older, he joined the Air Force to travel to Germany and play soccer. And an injury took him off the field. Well, he was devastated. He couldn't play any of the sports that he had spent all of his life thus far preparing for, and he was sidelined. So instead of playing the sports, he became a trainer. And he got to use his ability, his knowledge. He started in a high school, then went on to a college, and he eventually became a trainer for the Philadelphia 76ers. You may have heard of them, yeah. And he was one of the first African Americans in the NBA to be a trainer. So he had a lot of status there. And from the 76ers, he went on to Nike to work with a corporation of Nike. And at Nike, he was the catalyst for change, for good, in every part of the company. And today, he's an independent consultant He's a public speaker, and he visits groups to inspire them, and how sports, whether you're a player, a trainer, or coach, sports can inspire young people, and we can use that to give everyone something to aspire to. And you would find his words on about several million Starbucks cups. Wow. So I'm going to start going to Starbucks so I can see his words, you know. And he's an inspiration and a role model for many. As you could see his charisma in that very short video, you know, upbeat and energetic and a bright, brilliant smile. You could feel his energy. So in May of 2005, it was an important moment for Kevin. He spoke before dignitaries from 31 nations at the United Nations, and he talked with these countries' leaders about how sports and physical activity and playing can inspire an entire nation. He works with entrepreneurs and organizations to allow sports to be a catalyst for change in people's lives. So what about this red rubber ball? You know, we all have a red rubber ball that has guided us in our life, something that's inspired us, something that we've focused on. And the really cool thing is that we're never too old. Now, when I look here, we're of a certain age. We're not kids just starting out. And yet, we can find a red rubber ball to inspire our days going forward. There's always something that we can learn about, that we can become passionate about. How many times have you heard of artists or sculptors starting that creative expression later in life? I know for me, I became very much involved in writing. I would dabble in writing as a young person, but now I write a lot more. So we have to be open and playful in our mind to allow that inspiration to come. And no matter how old we become, as long as we're here, there's something that we can be passionate about. I heard bees, and I know the social justice is really important and a passion of so many people. So we all can have something that moves us along. It's whatever it is that grabs our attention and holds it, and that really nudge inside us that keeps drawing us towards that. So finding that red rubber ball is only half of the story. What do we do with it when we find it? And we call on our courage, our strength, and our imagination to carry that passion, to carry that inspiration forward. And Kevin shares his thoughts about how we can not lose sight of that idea that comes, not to just let it go by, but to really hold it and use it and see it come into life. So he calls this the rules of the red rubber ball, and he begins with make a commitment to that which you feel energetic about. Let it guide you to what you will study. Let it guide you to how you will live, how you'll spend your days, and who you'll spend time with. Let it direct all of your actions. And this is that law of mind action. So whatever we hold in our mind tends to create more thoughts of the same. Whatever thoughts we hold with consistency and enthusiasm, they tend to come into being. They tend to be made manifest. So hold that passion, hold that idea of your red rubber ball, hold it in your mind, let it roll around, let it come to mind when you wake up. Think about it before you go to bed. And that desire comes from our heart. It comes from our feeling sense rather than our thinking. We can think about it, but it's the feeling together with that draws everything to us to allow that idea to be made manifest. And it might not even feel rational. You know, our mind might tell us, no, don't bother with that. That's going to take too much time. That's too hard. You have to learn too much to do it. Our intellectual mind might try to talk us out of it. So it's our feeling that is truly our passion. And don't succumb to doubt. You know, I became a minister later in life. I had lived a whole life. And as my friends were talking about retiring and making plans to travel and have a retired life, that's when my journey to become a minister was just beginning. And I wouldn't trade that for anything in the world. So it doesn't matter our age. It doesn't matter what we've done in the past. It matters of what we hear today, what we listen to today that inspires us forward. And people might call us crazy. I know there were some people who thought it was really peculiar that I would decide to go back to school for more years of study, more years of work, and to leave corporate America for a small church. Who would do that? But anyway, it's, when we follow that passion, there's more joy in it than we can even imagine. So commit to that red rubber ball. Commit to the idea, even in the face of naysayers, and in the face of discouragement. Let that power of life, you know, that spirit of life that always draws us forward into more expression of our true self. Let that be our guide. Let strength be our backbone. Don't give up. And Kevin says that people would tell him that bouncing that ball would get him nowhere. And yet we can see that bouncing that ball got him everywhere that he needed to be, everywhere that allowed him to share a life story of inspiration and motivation for others. The second thing is to seek encouragement. You know, there will be naysayers in our life. Experience that when you have a dream or you have an idea that you want to bring into life, and there will be plenty of people who say, nah, that doesn't sound very good, or boy, you must be crazy. That would never work. Aren't you too old for that? You haven't done enough for that. So connect with people who have your best interest at heart. Connect with people when you float an idea, they grab onto it with you, and they support and honor you, that they bless you, they support you, they cheer you on, they give you encouragement. They help you to change course when you need to. They share in the joy of your story. And when things don't go quite so well, they don't point a finger and say, see, I told you so. They help you get back up and on your way. So Kevin found support in a family friend, Miss Lane. And Miss Lane happened to be there for Kevin when his grandmother died, when he was injured in the Air Force and couldn't play. She helped him through. And when Kevin felt down and defeated, she would ask him, why not? Why can't you go on in a different direction? So who's your Miss Lane? Who's that person in your life that supports and honors you and helps hold that inspiration with you? We have to work our creative muscles. We are born with infinite creativity. We are born with gifts. Some can sing, some can paint, some can write, some can be outstanding listeners. We all have gifts that we can share. So grow that muscle of whatever it is that's your gift. Grow it and hone it well, strengthen it. And yet when Kevin was injured, you know, life didn't go as he planned. He was counting on being a professional sports figure. It doesn't always go our way. But when he was injured, he didn't let it stop him. He continued with that red rubber ball and became a trainer. He studied and night and day to become a trainer so that he could continue at least on the same path. Maybe a little diversion, but it was still in sports. And when we call on our imagination, our creativity, we can say, if not this, then what? And when we say, and what, we open our mind to all of the inspiration of the universe. We open our heart to all the universe has to offer. When we say, if not this, then what? And that leaves us open. We don't start with a bunch of I can'ts. We can use that imagination to see, with the eyes of a child, not in a childish way, but with the eyes of a child, in the innocence, in the purity, and with that vivid imagination that can carry us places. That's in Buddhism, that's called the beginner's mind. So rather than starting out with all that you already know, start out with knowing nothing and starting again from nothing. That clean slate, beginning again. So it's our imagination that gives all of our ideas, the shape, the color, the texture, the sight, the sound, the feel, all of those senses that are our human experience. Our imagination brings all that into being. And then prepare to shine. Always be ready to be blessed. Always be ready for something good to happen. Be expecting something good. We spend a lot of time worrying, and that worry opens us to whatever it is we worry about. And if we sit in a space of expecting something good, guess what happens? Something good. Yes, because our eyes are focused on good. Our mind is anticipating good. Our heart is open for good. So we receive good. And trust. I believe that this energy of the universe is here supporting me in good and productive and positive ways. I have a lifetime of evidence to show me that. A whole lifetime. Now that doesn't mean that unfortunate things didn't happen. That doesn't mean that there weren't sad or upsetting times in my life. But through that, I can see perfect evidence that the universe was supporting my good and carrying me through life in a good way. Through the bumps and bruises. We all have those bumps and bruises. And it means that we have to do our work. If we're a person that feels a lot of anger, we have to find ways to soothe our anger. If we feel resentment, we have to find ways to become forgiving. If we're hard-hearted, we can find ways to become compassionate. So we do our work to perfect ourselves and to live our true self, which I believe our true self is goodness. So if I want to become a good writer, I'm going to need a great vocabulary. I'm going to have to know how to structure a sentence. I'm going to want to know how to be a good storyteller. So what can I do? I can take English classes. I can join a writer's group. I can join a storytelling group to perfect and grow all of those skills that I need. And to become the best athletic trainer, Kevin worked during the day as a coach, and during the night he took classes. And he would nap a couple of hours in between. He was so devoted. He poured all of his energy to that. And, when it came for him to learn how to wrap joints, he practiced on family and friends and colleagues' family and from the Air Force so that he could become proficient in it. And whatever we're going to pursue in life, you all know this, it requires work. There are very few of us who have pure, God-given talent in perfection even vocalists practice and take classes and rehearse. So we also have to learn to speak up. Don't give in to naysayers. When Kevin was in the Air Force, he volunteered to be trained as a military police. Well, in the orientation of that program, he could clearly see that that was not for him. So he stood up and spoke. I need to be reassigned. Well, his commanding officer was really angry because he was changing course. But for Kevin, that meant he changed courses and he became a language specialist. And he learned 5 languages. And that door opened because he spoke up. And the next rule is to expect the unexpected. Now, by this point in our life, we've probably come pretty proficient in expecting the unexpected. But Kevin tells the story that here he returned to Pennsylvania after leaving the Air Force, and he had his education, and he didn't have a job. So he interviewed and interviewed and interviewed, and finally he was interviewing in a high school. And as he sat in the room with the interviewer, he looked out over the parking lot of the school. And he realized that that very window that he was looking out was the same window that he had jiggled open in his high school days to get into the school and use the gym to practice shooting hoops. Oh, wow. Yes, it was an elite boys' school that he couldn't imagine ever going to. And here he was interviewing in the same room that he had broken into as a teenager. Well, he was pretty entertained by realizing that, and he told the interviewer the story. In fact, he showed the interviewer how he jimmied the window to get in. And well, the interviewer said, "You won't have to worry about breaking into this again. The job is yours." So expect the unexpected. The place where Kevin had thought he didn't belong, he could never be part of, here he was now invited to be a high school teacher. And then, we have to maximize our days. We have a limited number of days on this earth, and to make the most of them. We have like 84,000 seconds in a day, and we can make every single one, no matter what we're doing, no matter if we're living our passion and following that dream, or we're picking flowers to put on our desk. We can make the most of every one of those seconds to live very mindfully, to know that every minute, every hour, every second is a gift, and to use that for something good. And all of those opportunities allowed Kevin to exercise his listening, his learning, preparing, and doing, and live ready to learn. We learn new things every day. Before I came to Palatka, I was visiting a cousin in Sebring, and he's the most curious person I know. He's always asking questions. Now, he's in his mid-80s, and he could easily say, well, I know enough. I don't have to. He's always researching and studying and learning. And now he's learning about the process of orange juice making. Yes. And so that curious mind keeps him so young and vital. So we live ready to learn. And because every moment is a teachable moment. Every moment we can learn something new. And each day, remember to make a commitment to your red rubber ball. Find a teacher and hear them out. Look for something unexpected. Work the creative muscles. Speak up, and to be ready to shine. Those are the 7 rules. And in metaphysics, 7 is a number that represents completion. Well, I'm going to add another rule, and that is to be grateful. To be grateful for that inspiration, that no matter what age we become, there's still so much for us to learn and do and be, to be part of our world, to be part of our communities in vital ways, to be grateful for our teachers. Now, our teachers don't always come with very pleasant, easy lessons. Sometimes our teachers come raging at us. Sometimes our teachers come in ways that we don't think of them as a teacher, but a problem. Be grateful for all of that. Be grateful for those things that we call miracles, those things that arrive in our life unexpected. Be grateful for all of them. Be grateful for the gift of imagination. You know, that spirit that moves in us, that energy that is us, that can see and shape things in this life. And be grateful for the power of our word and those universal laws that we can use to make our lives what we envision them to be. And grateful for the light that shines as each and every one of you, because you all are lights in the world. And right now, our world needs the light of everybody to shine in the wonderful, unique, and perfect way that you do. There isn't another person that shines just as you do. There is not another person that shares compassion just as you do. There's not another person that is loving just as you are. And somewhere, somebody is waiting for the compassion, the love, and the kindness that you share in your own unique way. I can't be there for that person. They need you, or they need you in what you bring. So don't be afraid of that. Be that light and let it shine. Now, I shared a story of a red rubber ball. And, you know, you might remember it, you might not. But I have a little something to help you remember. And it might not be a red rubber ball, but it is a rubber ball. And you can have this to remind yourself to live your passion. So here you are. Take your rubber ball. No, I'm not going to throw them. I could injure somebody. But you could take one and just remember, you know, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, we have power. And remember that whatever you do, let all that you do be done with love. There you are. Thank you. Would you like a rubber ball too? Ah, that's a good one. And your name happens to be Kevin.
No, that's right. Just randomly selected.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll do a random selection as
Oh,
well.
that's a good one.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Yeah. So thank you again. Thank you again and again for allowing me to be here with you and live your red rubber ball.